I kind of begrudgingly respect just the dedication to not getting better at what you do for a living. Just coast through life.
It probably shouldn't even happen.
If you got it, you got to flaunt it, Acid.
You know what? I got a lot of stuff that I don't want to flaunt, so I just keep it to myself.
Jeremy is really big into the used mattresses. Excellent deal.
He has a used mattress store on the side. And we found out that Anthony's friends are all 13-year-old boys. Nice.
Whoever wins gets Acid's ball soap. Clay, how you doing?
Doing a little more poorly after that terrible introduction. I was just fine, to be honest with you.
Hello, sci-fi gangsters. This is the show where we talk about comic books, video games, and science fiction. But really, it's just an excuse for me to catch up with my friends and to meet interesting people. I'm Anthony Nanar, media scholar and person who's about to nerd out about talking about a film here. And we're going to be talking about Nope. That is the topic for today. And hopefully friendships won't be broken, because based on the text that I got from both the Jeremy and Acid, we'll figure out. We'll see what everybody says about this. But I'm excited to talk about Nope. I'll go ahead and just throw it out there. I really enjoyed the film, and anyone who didn't enjoy the film, we're probably gonna fight. We're gonna fight over this. Not really. I don't like to fight people. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to our guest here today. We'll start off with our guest, and that is Michael. Michael, how you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all? I know we were talking academia before coming on, so I just wanted to say hi, everybody, and hopefully everyone's having a good New Year so far.
Of course, Michael, both me and you are on the same program at Georgia State University in the film and media program, so you're slightly behind me in the and where you're at in your PhD process, but it's always exciting to get to talk with you. And catch up with everything, because I don't go to campus anymore, or I'm not going to be going to campus anymore, and you have been teaching online too, so we haven't really been able to talk. I really haven't been able to see any of my cohort or anybody there. The only person I see there every once in a while is Ethan, who is always disappointed to see me. So, he's going to talk with me again about this. I always feel like that every time. I'm like, hey, can we talk about this idea that I have? But that's just part of the process, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Michael, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Me and Ethan have a different thing where I never can work teams very well. So that's where he's disappointed in me, is that every time we get on Microsoft Teams, we're always like, I either read his time wrong or it's not working. So don't worry, maybe we're all just everyone who's under Ethan, I guess. Yeah.
I don't like Microsoft Teams. I'll go ahead and just say that right there. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Microsoft Teams. Even though we probably should like it more than Zoom, but I don't. All right, so go ahead and move on to my co-host, Jeremy. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm good. Just kind of getting back in the swing of things post-Christmas and New Year's. And I'll go ahead and throw it out there that a Nope is entirely mediocre.
Oh, wow. We're going to have some disagreements on that. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about why I disagree with that statement. But Jeremy, it's been a while since I've seen you. How have you been?
Busy. So, Nope was the first movie that I've sat down and watched in quite a while, it feels like. So I was glad to make the time to watch a movie. I'm just a little upset it was that one, but
I do not like the direction this conversation.
I know how you feel, Jeremy. I know how you feel.
Do not, but don't worry. It's not like you're wrong and I'm right. I'm just saying that you're wrong and I'm right. Hold on, that's not what I meant to say. It's just we have different views on a movie, and I'll talk about why I enjoyed the film. You'll talk about why you didn't enjoy the film, right? But before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk with Acid. Acid, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Just banging in the new year. School starts tomorrow, which I'm sure you are aware. Kids are going back to school, which, makes my life a living nightmare. But that's okay. Spring break is right around the corner.
I'm pretty excited. I've had my kids at home, and it's great to have them there, being wild, and screaming, jumping on you, everything. It's always fun, but it's also great when they go back to school. Like that's always great as well. Yeah. Well, very good, Acid. Well, let's go ahead and do what we always do before we get into our topic for today. So we'll hold off on talking about Note for just now. We'll sort of catch up, right? And there's many things that I could say to catch up with, but I'll go ahead and go to Michael very quickly and ask you what's new with you.
Nothing much. Just been enjoying the break, as Acid has said. Like, school for us, Anthony, even though you're not really there anymore, starts on Monday. So I know I have to start prepping syllabi and doing that eventually. But right now I've been playing The Last of Us for like the first time ever because of because of the HBO show.
Special time.
Yeah, it's been great. I was playing and then Anthony texted me being like, here's the link for the Zoom. And I was like, oh my gosh, I almost forgot because I was so in The Last of Us.
Which part are you at?
I just got into spring, which I didn't know that there were seasons at all until like it got to like fall, I think. And I was like, what is this game? So so I pet a giraffe and then I saved and I came right up here. So, that's where I'm at right.
Get ready for some emotions.
Oh no, I'm already feeling like emotional, so I'm excited to see where it goes. Because I know nothing. Like, all I knew is that there was kind of zombies and it's a father-daughter dynamic, so I truly am going in a little blind. But I'm excited to see what's up.
I've heard a lot of great things from a lot of people about how great this video game is, but of course it falls within a single player domain, which means I'm not gonna play it. That's just not who I am when it comes to video games. I do not play single player games. Just something I do not do anymore.
Fair enough.
What he's trying to say is he doesn't play with himself very well.
I do not. Not very well. I try to. I even tried to get into other games with a single player game. Just play, like, I like the Arkham Asylum games. I enjoyed those types of games. But I don't think that was back in the day. I don't think I could just play a game just to play it by myself. Like, I always feel like I have to play to get better for multiplayer. I don't know. That's my style.
So if you play multiplayer and you lost every single time, would you still play it? Like, is it the thrill of beating somebody else? Is it your toxic masculinity, Anthony? Is what I'm trying to get to.
No, it's my squad. I play with my squad, right? It's the community. Right, that's what I enjoyed so much. By the way, I was playing Madden again for the first time. I bought the new Madden, and there is a lot of toxicness on Madden when you play online. There is a lot of toxic dudes playing, and they get shocked when you're actually just cool with them. They're like, hey, just that was a good play, good job. They're like, what? Like, they're really confused about it. Like it's like a good play.
You're supposed to be mad.
Hey, what play? What play was that? I like that play. What'd you do? They're like, what? Anyways, so moving on to we'll go on to Jeremy. Oh, we lost Jeremy. He's stuck in a very very angry
awkward pose
and disappointing.
It looks very sinister, actually.
While we're waiting for Jeremy, I'll go ahead and talk about so I actually did not get to talk about my Puerto Rico trip at all, which I really enjoyed. First time I've ever been to Puerto Rico. It's my wife, Alinda, her homeland. Right, so we got to visit Puerto Rico. Had a great time. Obviously, we went to the name of the San Juan, right? And which is very touristy, right? So it's so touristy that everybody speaks English, right? So we had a lot of good meals. I got to jump off a 40-foot cliff into water, which was a thrill and a whole lot of fun. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, it was a great time. Went to the most fanciest restaurant that I've ever been to, and it made me uncomfortable. Right, Michael, do you want to guess how much it cost per person, roughly, at this fancy restaurant? Once again, this is the most fanciest restaurant I've ever been to, and I probably will never go to a place like this again because, once again, it made me feel very uncomfortable. Just the whole atmosphere. What's your guess here?
We're going with like US dollar, right?
Sure, we'll go US dollar.
Okay. Per person. Ooh, I'll say. I don't know if I want to be conservative or more. I'll say 200. You know what? I'll throw it out there.
Yeah. So it was about 150 per person per plate. However, it was $75 per wine bottle, and we as a group opened up multiple wine bottles. Let me first preface this by saying that we were taken out by someone who took us out to this restaurant, and this person paid for everybody. So
nice.
It was definitely a
good stuff.
Which makes me feel so uncomfortable. I really hate it. I hate it when I know for a fact that someone's going to pay for the meal because I know the person.
Oh, like up front?
What was that?
Are you saying like you hate to know up front, or was this like oh no, I got it, don't worry about it afterwards?
I'm fine with that. Well, I'm actually not very well. Anyways, but if I know, if we're going to an expensive place and I know this person. And I know this person's going to pay. That makes me feel so very uncomfortable.
Does it make you feel like you can't get what you want?
I guess in a way, yeah, that does. It makes me feel like yes, right. But
like,
this place
ooh, that lamb looks really good, but maybe I should get the vegetable plate. Like.
But this place,
$30
normally
cheaper.
That's the case. Yeah, normally that's the case. When I know someone's going to pay, and then I see like a steak, and I'm like, I really want the steak. And if I was going to pay, I would actually fork up for the steak. But
Sure.
knowing that this person's going to pay,
I
do not like getting the steak, right? And same thing comes with.
I can counter your anxiety on that. Are you ready?
Right,
so get if say me and you went to we'll say Acre for dinner, right? Or the Depot, somewhere really expensive.
Go.
And the bill is going to be $200-$300. Okay, and you already knew that I was going to pay for it, right? So your counter is okay, but at the end, you do the tip. So you leave this fat tip for the waiter or waitress. That always makes me feel better. Like, okay, you go ahead, you get the meal, and then like when they leave or they're not looking, like I'll drop 100 on the table for like a tip or something like that.
Yeah, to put this in perspective on the overall total, if I paid for the tip, it would probably be about over $200.
Yeah, but that's still cheaper than it would have been to pay for you and everyone else in your family.
All right. Anyway, so let me just say the food was phenomenal. The food was absolutely phenomenal, except for my main course. I went wrong with the main course, but everything else I had was phenomenal. But it was a 5-course meal where they give you like a little piece of food for each one. Every one of it was phenomenal, right? Of course, everyone had wine, and I hate wine, so I'm not drinking the wine, right?
Oh,
so
really
anyway.
Interesting. Did you have any White Claws while you were there?
No White Claws. I did have White Claw in Puerto Rico. I was drinking some White Claw in Puerto Rico. So I enjoyed that.
Jeremy, I was talking about hooked on these LaCroix.
Oh, okay.
LaCroix.
Jeremy, I was talking about my trip to Puerto Rico, and I went to the fanciest restaurant that I've ever been to in my life. $150 per plate with an extra $75 per wine bottle charge, and there was multiple wine bottles opened. Someone else forked up the bill. Someone took the bill.
It's always nice.
It was very nice of this person.
When did you go, Anthony?
What was that?
When did you go to Puerto Rico?
I went in like right after the semester ended in December.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, the whole trip was fun. I went with Alinda and her sisters and their partners. So it was like a 3-way partner trip kind of a thing. We had an Airbnb and everything. Jeremy's eyebrows raised with my choice of words. Well, yeah, it was a whole lot of fun. But Jeremy, we'll go ahead and get to you. We lost you for a second. I'm glad to have you back.
Yeah, I have recently reset my gateway. But yeah, so I don't know. The last 6-8 weeks have been a kind of a whirlwind. I think I mentioned this before, but last year I decided to go back and reread things that I had read when I was younger that I really enjoyed. And so I've worked my way through various series, and I'm just starting on some of the Star Wars books, which are no longer canon. They are now considered legends. But I refuse to read the new ones. I put way too much time and effort into memorizing all the old lore. So I'm reading the old ones. And I just started on to Heir of the Empire, which is the first book in the first Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn, which is really, really good trilogy to kind of set up that whole extended universe post Jedi originally. So I'm looking forward to reading back through those.
Mm. Is there anything you recommend, Jeremy, that you've reread so far that you're like, oh, everyone should be on this?
Unfortunately, my experience has kind of been rereading is like, oh, this isn't as well fleshed out as I remembered. Particularly some of the Shatner books, even though they're quite enjoyable and I still liked them. There are leaps made to progress the story. It's a little bit lazy storytelling. I reread the Harry Potters, and my opinion of J.K. Rowling's storytelling ability still holds. It's she doesn't follow traditional dynamics of a story. It's kind of flat, 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 flat all the way through, and the height of the story has about as much drama as everything else. So it's kind of just a straight through.
That's how I felt about the movies too. Like nothing ever seemed like, oh my god, that just like none of that just ever happened to me in the movies. Like I'm not saying the movies were bad, but they could have been much better.
Yeah, I mean they after Chris Columbus left the movies, there is a distinct difference in feel. And I mean, I will say the stories are fleshed out better in the books. But yeah, it's still not one of those things that I think everyone should run out and read. But we'll see how the Thrawn books hold up on a. It'll be my probably third or fourth reread, but the first time in at least 10 years.
Oh, to be able to read for fun. Like, oh, that would be so phenomenal just to read for fun.
You
Tell me
send
what
us
it's like.
pictures of you playing video games. It's not a lack of time.
Yeah.
No. It's a lack of mental energy. Like I couldn't. Yeah, that's. I didn't mean to say that you have too much time on your hands. I'm saying I would love to be able to have the mental energy to be able to just read for fun again. But yeah, very good. Michael, what's the last time you read for fun?
Probably. Oh God, I was reading a book. I got like halfway through it and then stopped because unfortunately school does that. So probably a couple months ago, I read like a chapter of a book for fun. But like a whole book, oh my gosh. Like actually I'm not very big of a reader in the fiction sense because actually Jeremy, you're talking about Harry Potter, like as a child I never got into them, and like I tried reading them when I was a little bit older, like in high school-ish area, and I got to like the third book and then stopped as soon as they got like this thick or so. So yeah, I'm definitely like a film major through and through sometimes with with how I consume my fiction and my media. But I would love to read more. But yeah, as Anthony said, a lot of academic textbooks I'm currently reading. So that has been the thing I'm consuming the most, but not for fun, unfortunately. Well, they're fun to us. They're just not, they're not.
Some of them are fun. I'll say
Yeah.
some of the academic texts that I've read, I've enjoyed. I feel like they have been fun. Yeah. All right, Acid, what's new?
What's new? Let's see. We did just book our Disney cruise for
Nice.
June. So we're gonna go Disney cruise in June, head to the Bahamas. The the Bahama cruise, and when we get back, we'll do a couple of park days. So we'll get that done this summer. We also booked our Washington D.C. trip for spring break, so we're heading up to D.C.
Oh, my homeland.
Yeah, and for spring break for a few days, go check out the sites. I haven't been in years. I haven't been since high school, so, and the kids have never been. So we figured we'd go up there and, you know, show them all the important stuff, you know. Anyway, so I think we're gonna do a White House tour and that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
So see the monuments and, you know, eat some good food and come home. Just, you know, something to do with the family. Go fly out there. And I've been trying to eat less calories than I burn every day. So I'm on point so far this year. I know it's only day 4, but, you know, so far so good. And so yeah, so that's all that's really new, other than, you know, school starting tomorrow.
All right, well, very good. Excellent. Good to have everybody here. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's get started with our conversation about the film Nope by Jordan Peele. His third film, correct, Michael?
And his worst.
Oh.
Okay, so all right, so here we go.
What else has he done? Just so I'm caught up.
So Get Out, which is it was his big one, and then Us, right? Us.
Yeah.
Us.
Okay, I didn't see that. So I started with the worst one. Okay, got it.
So Jeremy,
Understood.
real quick, out of the 3 films, which one do you like the most?
Get Out.
Get Out.
Like,
so
strongly, I think is the best.
okay, so let me go first. Okay, let me just say my thing first.
He
Okay,
wants to bring positivity to the table first. Okay, go ahead.
this is my favorite Jordan Peele film.
Wow. Okay.
For a couple of reasons. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we'll talk about 3 things that we enjoyed or did not like about the film, and we'll do a real round robin thing like we always do. But let me talk about one theme. So what Jordan Peele does very well in all his films is that he often picks a theme or multiple themes, and he really plants it throughout the film, and he really he plays with that theme in multiple avenues, right? So my first theme that I want to talk about is exploitation, because I think that's his overarching theme in Nope, is the idea of exploitation, right? And exploitation is sort of played with throughout the entire film, from the very beginning where he talks about Muybridge and the very first film being a slave on a horse, right? And the idea of exploitation there. And then there's exploitation in terms of sort of the exploitation of animals, right? Sort of like the domestication of horses. But there's also exploitation of trauma, and talking about the Jupiter character, how he had a very serious trauma, like a trauma where he should be in a mental institution, right? Or he should have serious PTSD, but he makes a carnival based on that trauma. So, and there's so much this idea of exploitation is constant throughout the whole film. And even when the main characters decide to, when they find this UFO or this alien animal, their first thing to do is, well, we got to take a picture of it so we can make money off of it, which is insane when you think about it, right? Why would you do that? That makes absolutely no sense. But when you think about the theme of exploitation and how Jordan Peele is, once again, it's a commentary on it's an exaggerated commentary on sort of like American and Western society, this idea that we need to commodify everything, and how disturbing it gets when we are commodifying exploitation or we're commodifying trauma. So let me just focus on the Jupiter character, which I find that this character is disturbing in so many ways. Like, not disturbing in a very explicit way, right? When you think of a horror film, he's not a murderer. He's not a guy with a knife going around killing people. But when you think about the character in general, he suffered a very serious trauma where a TV show was sort of exploiting a chimpanzee in order to create a TV show. And that chimpanzee, when you are attempting to, and this often sort of ties into the theme as well, the idea of attempting to control living beings, like this desire to control living beings, and the dangerous and the violent consequences of that. So when you think about the Jupiter character, he's a kid in a TV show, and the ape goes insane and starts killing everybody or starts hurting everybody. And that trauma of that ape doing that, rather than Jupiter attempting to sort of find a way around this or trying to sort of burying that trauma, the one thing he does is he creates a carnival around it. And one of the most disturbing scenes when you really think about it, because obviously when you're watching the film, when you're watching a horror film, there are certain expectations. And in many ways, Nope does not satisfy those expectations. But when you really think about what's disturbing about the film, when he's talking about the SNL skit, I think it's fantastic. It's brilliant because obviously it's a fictional SNL skit because this did not really actually happen. None of this actually happened. But the idea that SNL, Saturday Night Live, would create a skit mocking a something as traumatic and serious as a chimpanzee killing a bunch of people is insane. But it sort of like it's an over exaggerated mirror on exploitation in general, like this idea that we need to commodify everything, that we need to make money everything. So those that theme of exploitation is consistent throughout the film. And when you watch, I remember when I was watching the film. First off, by the way, I was watching on the plane, right? So I was watching on a plane on my way to Puerto Rico, and I'm like, once again, you have expectation when you go to watch a horror film, and there's like, oh, there's a really good scene. I won't talk about that until later. There's a really good scary scene that I enjoyed. Then you're like, okay, that was fine. But then when you really actually start to think about the film itself, it's everything. You're like, oh wait, that's right. This happened and this happened. And it's this weird reflection of American society in general, of this desire, this quickness to want to exploit things, even things that you should not be trying to commodify. And one of the things is trauma. Of course, the TMZ reporter as well, like he just shows up there, but he has this weird mask thing where it's like he has a helmet, but he has a camera in the helmet or something weird. Like it's this weird, grotesque, like alternate reality where it's so close to actual reality, but the exaggerated parts is what is designed to be disturbing about it. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about in terms of like the major thing that I noticed in terms of exploitation and commodification of trauma. Okay, good. So that's what I want to talk about. So we'll go ahead and we'll go to Jeremy next, and we'll go to Michael to clean the palate after what Jeremy has to say. No, go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said, other than the fact that most movies that beat you over the head with the theme over and over are satire. And they're done in a very particular way, and this was not done in that way. But I'll start with something that I like. So I thought the cinematography of the first segment was very strong. So when it started, I had really high hopes. But then it just got kind of progressively lazier throughout the movie. I thought the initial scene, like the angles, the focus, the use of color, all that was really great. But then it almost seemed like it was shot by somebody else, the later part of the movie.
It does become like it kind of starts off a little artsy, and then it kind of gets progressively like blockbuster-ish at the very end. And I don't disagree with you, Jeremy. I don't. So yeah, I don't necessarily have anything to say in terms of to disagree with you on that. But yeah, it definitely felt like when it's revealed that it's, I think the movie sort of loses its luster in a lot of ways when you find out what the alien is. I feel like that's when
they never should have shown it, I don't think.
I can agree with that. All right, very good, excellent. Michael, we'll go ahead and go to you. You can talk about things you like, things you didn't like.
Um, so I will say on the same page as Anthony, where I really love this movie. I saw it twice in theaters. Um, and I think that's no surprise that Anthony and I are the ones who love it so much because this film is like about film and is very like heavily focused on film. So of course the two film majors are like just like, oh my god, like there was like a gift set I saw where the aliens that Jupe makes are actually the like cameras that were on set. They're like the same. That's where their faces come from, and it's like the little stuff like that that I was like, wow, like this is truly, this is truly for the film girlies. Like this is like so, like it was so much about film and how film, like as you were saying, Anthony, how exploitative film is. Um, I came out of this movie having like a paper idea with all of Jordan Peele's films. So like I definitely am like pro this film. I would probably, if I had to rank them, I'd probably put Nope second, Us last, and then Get Out first.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I really love this film. I'll probably watch it again and again. I love the alien, especially in its final form. I just love how it looks, and all the like references to religion and especially angels, like especially since I grew up Catholic, I was like very into that. Like I was just like I like a lot of how the film looks is and like the themes of it I was just like on board for. So I I don't have it's been a while since I watched it, so I will say like again I watched it when it came out in theaters. So it's been a couple months. So I don't have anything like negative to say right off the bat from what I can think of it. But I don't disagree with anyone, but yeah, personally I just it was definitely made for me this film. So I really loved it.
One thing that I noticed that sort of ties into the filminess about it is like the alien itself look like many people have brought up the fact that it looks like an eye, like it's supposed to be like one large eye, but to me it almost seems like a camera because it's got the eye of the camera and it's sort of attempting to capture things, right? So like
Yeah.
metaphorically capturing. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, even the way that it begins, right? Like the beginning of the film looks like a TV, like it looks like a screen that you're like zooming into, except it's
yeah,
obviously not because it's like wind rushing and all this stuff. And we later find out it's its mouth, right? But like the way like so much of it is like it's so heavily focused on like film and like what film means and how like the other thing I think Anthony that like you kind of are getting to is like spectacle, right? And how the spectacle consumes and how we are so wanting to consume what is the spectacle. And so which leads to your exploitation thing, right? And so yeah, like a lot of it with like the cameras, how like both cameras and nature and all these other things kind of morph together, how we capture these moments, whether or not that's like exploitative in nature or not, like what it is, like yeah, I can go on and on, but but yeah, I truly adore this film.
all right, excellent. We'll get to our second round here, but first, Acid, what do you got? Talk to me.
So these types of movies aren't really my entertainment that I kind of go to. I felt like I was watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I mentioned that earlier. I really felt like this was like an updated version of The Village, and I just with my mentality going into the movie, I was sort of I don't analyze them kind of the way that y'all do. I kind of go in for the am I going to be entertained or not? Just because I mean that's just kind of how I view my entertainment. Same with video games. Am I going to be entertained or not? You know, the story is kind of second to me. But there were some. I'll start with some good things. The I thought the cast was fun. Um, I don't know how you get any better cast wise in a story like this. I was kind of disappointed that Glenn from Walking Dead was had such a smaller role in this film. I thought he could have had some more stuff. I mean, the scene with the entity over the house while it was raining and that kind of stuff. That was I thought that was well done. I didn't find it a horror movie. Nothing really scared me about the movie. It was more just like that's kind of that's kind of nasty, or whatever. That wasn't good. But as a whole, I wasn't entertained at the end. I was more left confused than I was anything else. I mean, especially after it didn't choke on the fake horse, but a balloon killed it. That's kind of, I mean, that seems it should have went in the opposite direction. But anyway, and I kind of like to have closure in films like that, and there was none for me. Like, there was no closure. Like, where did this thing come from? Are there other things like it? It even leave it open to even suggest that anything else was out there, or anything else was coming or not coming or whatever. But so I guess in a nutshell, my first round is I was very confused after I finished this film. So.
Well, very good. Excellent. Excellent. Obviously, I love Marvel films, and I love action films and everything, but every once in a while I like to watch a film like this and sort of like enjoy the fact that it's not obsessed with world building. It's just an isolated story about an alien animal that just apparently is just there, I guess, which is fine for me. That's a fine setup for me. But we'll go ahead and get to my second thing before we get to everybody else. So I wrote down exploitation, number 1, and I wrote down trauma for number 2. And I kind of talked about trauma a little bit, but I want to talk about sort of the idea of trauma, of like inheriting trauma and then spreading that trauma, like this desire to spread trauma to others, right? So once again, we kind of get to Jupiter and this idea that he suffered a very violent incident where he watched an animal almost kill. I'm assuming he killed a lot of them, right? Like the mom survived. The mom survived, but did he kill the man?
No, the sister survived.
The sister survived. So the mom and the dad were killed.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Okay. So you just watched an ape kill people, right? That's a traumatic experience, especially as a child.
It was a chimpanzee.
Chimpanzee, right? Sorry, my apologies to the chimpanzees. And then he attempts to capture or try to control an alien being. But not only does he do that, right? So obviously, in my second run through, I realized that he had been sort of attempting to domesticate the alien throughout the whole film, right? Because that's why he was getting the horses from the beginning. He was getting the horses from the other guy to feed because he was wanting to domesticate the animal, right? The alien. But then this is one of the most disturbing parts of the film to me, is that when you watch it, you notice that there are families present at this show. And as a dad, the scene where they're all stuck in the belly or the esophagus or whatever, and they're all screaming, my God, that is what, to me, I don't know what it is. There's certain things that kind of trigger me. And the idea of being confined in a digestive system, knowing that your kids are there with you, is one of the most disturbing things I can possibly think of. So like that scene where they're all screaming in there is absolutely is horrible. But yeah, so that's my second thing I wrote here, is like the idea, and this is kind of something I talk about when I talk about the Watchmen in my comic book class. In the Watchmen, one of the main themes in the Watchmen is the inheriting trauma and then spreading that trauma to other people. Right, that's one of the main themes in the Watchmen. And that's one thing I noticed in terms of like, you suffered this horrible event and now you're putting other families in danger, right? It's this very disturbing thing. But we'll go ahead and get to Jeremy.
All right, so my main criticism is that this is not really a movie. It's not really a story. So it is at best one act of a story. There is absolutely no character development throughout the entire movie. There's really not even a big arc. Like you kind of get right into it, and then it's just struggle to the end. So it doesn't make sense from a storytelling perspective. It doesn't. The science is terrible, offensively bad. So even from a science fiction perspective, it doesn't get the science right. The nickel would not have killed Keith David. The balloon would not have exploded. I'm assuming that's like an ode to Jaws. That's his. But the balloon would not have. It's not that compressed, so it wouldn't have done anything. Yeah, so it's really the complete lack of character development, and the lack of any changing dynamics in the story that really killed it for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. That definitely, because I'm trying to think of all the characters, and I think you're right. There is no character growth. There's like no change. I guess you could say the main character, he sort of he kind of figures out a way to beat the creature by not attempting to capture it, because originally he wanted to capture the creature, or he wanted to capture an image of it in order to make money off of it. Then he figures that's not possible, so he kind of learns to look away from the animal. But yeah,
no, that was beforehand, right? I mean, he was still trying to capture an image of it. Even the looking away was just an artifact of not getting sucked up.
Yeah.
I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it was an animal doesn't make sense. Like, why choose an animal?
It wasn't a UFO. It was a creature.
Yeah. But even if it's a ship, it's still housed by sentient beings. So that just seemed an odd choice.
So basically, it was a monster, right? It was a monster. Like, yeah, so,
but,
like,
I mean, a monster
whether it was an alien monster or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, very good. Michael, what do you got?
Before I go into mine, I think it's just interesting because, like, I think from what I'm hearing, like, all of you assume that, like, OJ is the main character, right? Whereas I read it as Emerald being the main character, because she has, like, a decent arc, right, of her coming into her own from her family, and, like, her, like, trauma around her family, where her dad did not help her, or, like, you know, trust her as much as, like, say, OJ, right? And I think it's, like, kind of, to be fair, it's like a dual protagonist moment, right? Like, the siblings are the main protagonists of this movie, and that they are the ones who are going on their journey together. But, like, I definitely think, like, she has, like, more of the journey for me watching this film, compared to, say, like, OJ, right, who has to just learn to trust her, but she also has become trustworthy, because she will, like, disappear, go away, like, not care about the family in the sense that he cares about the family, because of his father's own, like, you know, issues around their family. So that's kind of just a quick interjection of, like, it was just interesting. I was like, oh yeah, like, everyone seems to think OJ is, like, the main guy, and I'm like,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think she was by far the most dynamic character.
Yes.
I just felt like she was still the same person at the end as she was at the beginning.
Fair enough. That's a fair enough reading. Like, I definitely don't get that, but that's fair. Like, I guess, like, so the thing that I took away most from this, like, film, that probably will turn into an academic paper, like most things, as Anthony knows, get turned into eventually when we watch things, is the use of animals in this. I thought was really interesting, and especially going back to Jordan Peele's other two films and how he uses animals in those as well. Like with Get Out, there's the deer. With Us, there's, like, rabbits, and then with this one, it's like horses, and then, like, this monstrous creature, right, who is revealed as to be an animal, and especially, like, a predator. And I think something that I am really interested in is how Jordan Peele uses animals and race and horror to, like, create these, like, this imagery, right? And so that's kind of, like, the biggest thing that I took away from this that I really liked, was just kind of the connection of blackness to like specific animals, especially like historically black people have been linked to being predators, and how this time like in all of Peel's stuff they are more of like the victims of these greater systems or things, right, that are like oppressing down upon them. And so yeah, like that's something I really thought he did in this movie. And again, like I think all three of his movies kind of have these loose connections to that idea. So again, if you want to hear more about this, hopefully I'll write a paper about it sometime in the near future. Or I guess this is where I can plug in media res, because I did a Jordan Peele week for it, so where I wrote about this. But yeah, so that's kind of one of the things that really intrigues me about this film that I really like.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons why I had you on the show, because I saw that you had the week on Jordan Peele, and I wanted to talk about Nope.
Yeah,
Very good. All right, Acid, what do you got?
Kind of piggybacking on what Jeremy said, and just my whole thing about this really wasn't a horror film. Every horror film I think I've watched, I guess including this one, if you want to call it a horror film, the characters themselves, I felt like I didn't care about. There wasn't, like he was saying, there wasn't enough to development. I don't think there was. I think the backstory, just going into this, the backstories were kind of weak. There wasn't enough. Like I feel like I needed more, not just for development, but I needed more. I needed more backstory. I needed to know more about them before they started this, if you want to call it, journey in this film or whatever. I felt like they crammed it in as fast as they could, and 90 minutes of the rest of the movie was nobody talking, because a lot of it was just, somebody walking around a corner or into a barn or running and hiding, and there wasn't a lot of dialogue. So you're trying to figure out who these people are by watching their movements and watching their actions. And that was a little disappointing. Like, because I after I finished it, I'm like, well, I didn't enjoy it, but I also didn't give a rip about anybody in this movie, character wise. So I didn't, I don't know. That kind of disappointed me, I guess.
All right.
The cinematographer, I will say, I thought was going to be a really interesting character, and then was not.
Well, it was weird. He was almost like he was sacrificing himself for the perfect shot. By the way, the idea of the perfect shot was such a weird. I will say this, like I feel like maybe I just didn't get it. The idea of the perfect shot, in terms of like I need to capture something, and I'm willing to die for it. Like I just I didn't understand that part.
I mean, I get that. I mean, it's an artist to the pinnacle. Like he's, everyone holds him in esteem, but in his own mind, he hasn't quite perfected the art yet. So he's going after perfection in, mastery of his art. So I get that. I just like when he was watching the really odd python and tiger things, and it's like, oh man, this guy's going to be something. And then it just kind of never came up. Other than I will say, one of my favorite scenes was him at the dinner table with the purple people eater.
Oh yeah,
dialogue.
Yeah. That wasn't bad. I liked it.
I thought that he was going to I thought that his filming was going to be what would capture the image of the alien, and not the barn, the well picture. So it was kind of weird. He kind of sacrificed himself for nothing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of it, right? Like he was willing to, like he destroyed everything in his path to get the shot.
Yeah. And I definitely think that comes into, again, like this idea of like exploitation and like spectacle, right? Where like, especially the implication was that he was somehow like very gravely sick because he was taking pills and stuff like that. And so to kind of sacrifice himself in this way, I think a lot of people kind of end up doing that, right? Like we have like people who are like killed on sets, right? Like many people like die of exhaustion, or all these things are happening in the name of art. And I think that's kind of what his character was, is this kind of like extreme version of like things are already happening within like media and Hollywood itself, is that like people are dying from this for this pursuit of like fame and glory and like these moments. And yeah, I think that's what his main kind of
Well,
archetype was.
even the TMZ guy, when he fell over
Hmm.
on the bike, I mean, the only thing he seemed to care about was, did you get the shot? Did you get my camera? Did you get my,
Yeah.
get my
Hence
camera?
the
Hmm.
beating you over the head.
Yeah.
Was this beating you? I don't
I
think
mean, it
that's
was
a
from
fair.
the get go. It was, yeah.
I don't think
It
that's
was
fair.
just like if he had just come out like Jordan Peterson himself walked into frame and just said, "This is what I'm trying to tell you," and
Oh,
walked
Jordan
back
Peele,
out.
not Peterson,
Oh,
by the
sorry,
way.
Peele.
Yeah, a
Wow,
different Jordan.
That's
Been
because
talking
the
talking
reason
to Anthony too much
I
about
know
the
he's
other
been
one.
talking to me. So,
Uh,
Michael, I have been getting in way too much in the weeds with Jordan Peterson. Like me and him are like arch nemesis, and he doesn't know it. Like so, yeah, I keep every time like I'll figure out something like stupid about Jordan Peterson. I'll text Jeremy, like, look at this guy. Very good, excellent. Let's all say one quick thing about this film. I just want to say I love the barn scene. I know it's a misdirect, but I loved it. It was fantastic. It was
oh, you
like
talking about with the
classic,
little alien kids?
the little alien kids where you
Yeah.
thought maybe it was actually aliens. Ah, it was phenomenal. I just love that scene. I thought it was great suspense. I thought the way that the aliens were moving, like that one shot with like the heads poking out slowly like that. Oh, it was phenomenal. I loved it. But go ahead and move on to Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the casting was great. I think everyone did a really, really good job playing their roles. I was surprised at Stephen. I can't remember his last name.
Yoon.
Yeah,
Stephen Yoon. Yeah.
yeah. His monologue when he was talking about the SNL scene, I was like, man, this guy's got some acting chops that you really didn't see on The Walking Dead.
Mhm.
So and like playing the dad, I love Keith David. Like everything he does, I enjoy. So
The Marines or is the Navy? Does he do the Navy? I can't remember which one he does. Is it Marines or Navy?
the
He does a
voiceover,
voiceover.
it was the Marines.
Okay.
But yeah, like everyone, it almost felt like it was written, like Jordan Peele wrote it with those actors in mind, which is probably true for the main guy since he's been in pretty much everything. But yeah, so I thought the casting was really sharp.
All right. Well, very good. Michael, what do you got?
I'll just like quickly piggyback and say I just want Daniel Kaluuya in like more things. So I also enjoyed the casting. Okay, let's see. Probably one of my favorite scenes is definitely that like Jupiter's claim sucking everyone up scene where like everyone gets like eaten. I actually, okay, so weird plug, but like for Halloween, I went to Universal Studios where they have the actual Jupiter's claim there. And so I got to
Oh,
like
wow.
walk through it during their horror nights where a bunch of people dressed up as the us people were there waiting to scare me. So I like, it was one of those true film major moments where I was like, could I just like hang out here for like 10 minutes and look around? But you know, you have to like keep walking, obviously. But I really want to just look at the set. But the Jupiter's Claim stuff I really love as just like a set design were like great. And yeah, and that was also the scariest part was when they got sucked up and were eaten. Like that was like terrifying. And I'll have to send Anthony a bunch of stuff from like the internet because I saw a video of Jordan Peele filming that scene where they're in the like kind of throat area and like how he filmed it on like a tracking shot or I think yeah, it was a tracking shot or a dolly, that's what it was. And it's like really cool. They're just like this like giant like throat that people are like sliding through. And it's like really cool, and I'll have to like send it to Anthony to send to all of y'all. But yeah, there's so many little Easter eggs that are just like really great in this movie. So
Real quick thing. So what's so disturbing about that? Once again, so I've had so one of my more recurring nightmares, right, is, and I've had these nightmares before, and it wakes me up and it scares me. One of my worst nightmares is this is the scenario of a nightmare that I've had several times, by the way, is the world is ending. I have my kids. My wife's nowhere to be found. And like the world is literally ending, and I have to tell my kids we're all about to die. That is by far my worst. I've had these nightmares before, and I wake up and I'm like, I'm thrown. So the idea that I could be in an alien's throat with my kids, my goodness. It's one of the
He's
most
gonna have
terrifying.
nightmares tonight.
You wouldn't have to tell them at that point, though. Like they would just.
they would just know.
I think
Everyone
they would
just
know by then. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
at least one thing off your plate.
Yeah, I think
Those
the
people were
worst part.
conscious. Those people were
Yeah.
conscious and alive, screaming in that throat.
I said that was the most uncomfortable scene in the movie by far.
Yeah. I think the worst part about that scene is that it's by the hands of a child actor. So truly, like this child actor doomed you to your fate. And that's your lot in life, is to get eaten and eventually barfed out in this black man's house later.
All right, Asa, what you got?
I guess I'll say this. Favorite character in the movie was the tech guy from the little
Oh, okay.
from the little Best Buy knockoff. I kind of felt like him.
Fries? I'm pretty sure Fries is not. You can't really call it a knockoff. It's a huge chain.
I've never heard of it.
So apparently,
I've never heard of that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like him, just confused but along for the ride. Just let's go. But I guess one of the scenes that really kind of agitated me was the praying mantis scene, when the praying mantis was on the camera. I'm like, really? Is that what we're doing now? Okay.
Yeah. Very good. Excellent. Well, very good to hear everybody's opinion here. Some of us like this. Some of us like the film way more than others, and that's totally fine. We're allowed to like films. We're allowed to not like films. That's just the way things are.
Unless it's a James Cameron movie, and then if you don't like it, it's because you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
According to James Cameron.
According to James Cameron. All right. Well, very good. Excellent. Well, that is our show for today. Acid, is there comments or anything? Probably not. Comments
there are, but it's from a spam bot, so we're good.
Oh, spamming us. But that's our show for today. Once again, you can check out all of our shows on YouTube. Also, you can check us out wherever you get your podcasts in podcast form. I'm Anthony Denar. That's Jeremy. That's Michael. That's Acidtrain. Goodbye, everybody.